Why would you do that?
We're in the endgame now.
We're in the Endgame now. So, what is good YouTube? Warstu here with a video on the Avengers Endgame movie. So I have seen the movie twice now and enjoyed it a lot more the second time round because you notice a lot more of the Easter eggs, the kind of references, even the Easter eggs of the deleted scenes that only if you're I guess you can an MCU fanboy that you pick up on. So we're going to do another round of the Hasbro Infinity Gauntlet, the one that I've displayed on this channel a lot of times. All you got to do is subscribe to the channel with notifications on and let me know down below what is your favorite moments from this movie and what is something you're never going to forget about this movie. So we'll be going over full spoilers, endings, time travel, logic in flaws, and also major plot points. Because although the ending wasn't that advanced, in some ways, there is some massive plot points that need talking about. So, massive spoiler warning if you haven't seen this movie. So, let's get into this full spoiler review. So the movie starts with Hawkeye, someone who we have not seen in such a long time. He didn't appear in Infinity War because just like Antman, he was under house arrest. So it starts with him teaching his daughter to essentially become the next Hawkeye. Now this is quite an important scene, I think, because essentially it is showing that the decimation affected everyone. So we see his daughter there, we see his wife there for a few moments, and then he turns around and they're gone. We don't see them dusted, we just see their dust on the floor. Now this is to tell you that yes, this scene is picking up directly at the same time that everyone else was decimated at the end of Avengers Infinity War. So it reminds you that the threat is not over. Then it flicks to Tony Stark and his new best friend forever, Nebula. Them two really killed it together. I really love them two together. And essentially it just shows you a bunch of scenes of them kind of, I guess, running out of food, etc. And it was actually Captain Marvel who saved them and brought them back down to the Avengers HQ. Just like I said and loads of other people said, but interesting enough, it was one of my biggest videos on the channel, which is pretty cool. So Captain Marvel did end up saving them. And then the movie started very different. Then essentially they realized that Thanos has used the stones again. So they charged to the garden, this time with Captain Marvel, to get him. And something happened that I didn't actually see coming this early in the movie. They actually killed him. Well, more interesting enough, Thor went for the head with Stormbreaker, took his head off, so they were absolutely messed up at this time, so they couldn't actually revert the snap, even if they wanted to. And then we got the infamous 5-year time jump that everyone called, and it's interesting that we spent most of the movie in the 5-year time jump, and everyone went their own kind of ways. Tony Stark got a life, he got a daughter, which is really awesome to see. It's kind of like making his role in the MCU complete, like I guess you could say full circle in his role. His life's now based around Pepper, and obviously his daughter Morgan, instead of being based around being Iron Man, and everyone else has much different lives now. Captain America is part of some kind of, I guess you could say, counseling scheme, which is interesting because one of the Russo bros was there. Joe Russo was actually there, I believe it was, and also Jim Starlin, who is the creator of Thanos himself, were in that scene. So they are kind of Easter eggs, and it's pretty hilarious seeing a director in the movie. It's kind of like when you see Taika Waititi in Thor Ragnarok play Korg, which is interesting. So essentially what happens is Ant-Man comes out of the quantum realm, and he is obviously in the same timeline as everyone else, 5 years in the future from the timeline that was set in Infinity War, and everyone is done and dusted. He goes to his house, he sees Cassie is an older person, so he makes the assumption that yes, there has been a time jump. He said he was in there for 5 hours, but in real life it's been 5 years, so it must be really pretty damn awesome for him to be like, whoa, where am I? And then obviously they go to the Avengers HQ, and essentially Ant-Man pitches the idea to the other Avengers that we can use these time vortices, we can use the quantum realm to go back in time, get the stones, because you got to understand, guys, that Thanos doesn't have the stones. He destroyed them. His gauntlet is gone. So they have to go back in time and calculate it perfectly because they don't have that many Pym particles in order to get back. So essentially, it is a time heist, and a lot of people did see it coming. There is a lot of damn awesome scenes in this, and I really did love the Hawkeye and Black Widow scenes together. They were fantastic. So essentially, there is 3 teams, and they all go to their independent place to get all the stones. They get most of the stones, pretty simple to be honest, but obviously they have the most problems when it comes to the Soul Stone because neither of them knew that they had to sacrifice someone in order to get the Soul Stone, a soul for a soul, and they understood that. Obviously that's why Thanos went there and Gamora never came back, because essentially he had to sacrifice someone he loved in order to get the stones, and neither of them can agree. So they have this pretty awesome fight until essentially Black Widow has to let go, and then essentially he wakes up with the Soul Stone, and it's a very emotional arc for me. It was probably one of the saddest parts of the movie, Black Widow, but obviously we do have the Black Widow movie coming out, which is going to have to be a prequel movie, I guess you could say, which is very interesting. And the other one where they had problems was with the New York scene and the Tesseract and obviously the Space Stone, which is interesting enough because they messed up and Loki got the Tesseract and disappeared. So in theory, Loki never died. Now I know the Russo Bros said he died in Infinity War, but if you think about that, no one ever caught him. He got the Space Stone, disappeared. So in theory, Loki isn't dead, and I presume that's something to do with the Disney streaming service that they're going to have running. But essentially, if you watch the Flash TV show, you know how this is going to play out. If you change anything in the past, the future will change. So essentially, there was 2 versions of Nebula, and one of them was having memories that I guess you could say outlived her own life. So essentially they figured out that there's another Nebula, and the imposter Nebula goes back to the current timeline and then essentially lets Thanos through, and that is how the invasion happens. The final battle is actually at the Avengers HQ, which a lot of people, I predicted it here on this channel, I'm not saying the only one, but a lot of other people did say that in the comment section and other stuff like that, which is pretty cool. But what's interesting is this is a different version of Thanos from 2014, so I'm pretty sure that he would have looked different. He did look different, but he didn't look like he did back in 2014, which is pretty interesting. But eventually, Gamora helps our Nebula, win. Essentially helps the Avengers. And then we get the insane final act, which is interesting. Thor in this movie is a little bit strange. He's got a massive beard, got long hair, gained a lot of weight. But if you follow him on social media, Chris Hemsworth is actually beast. He's shredded all year round. So it's probably some kind of prosthetics or I guess you say bodysuit or something like that. And his role in this movie was pretty funny. They've got New Asgard, which is pretty funny. One thing I didn't like was Korg is alive, which is cool, with his little friend, and I didn't like the fact that Fortnite ended up in this movie somehow. I thought that was a bit ridiculous, but Thor's character, it really did change in this movie. They changed him into someone that was chill, he just wanted to get drunk and stuff like that, because he's dealing with the loss like everyone is, but you gotta move on. Stan Lee's cameo in this movie, if you blinked, you did move it. Essentially, they made him look like he did back in the era they were in the movie, and essentially he was driving by in a car, but if you did blink, you would have missed it. So essentially, Tony Stark met his father, Howard Stark, and they were talking about Tony, although Howard Stark didn't actually know that. So that was a pretty cool moment. Obviously, when Thor went back, he's seen Jane Foster. He got to speak to Frigga, his mother. So there was a lot of Easter eggs. You'd probably have to watch it a few times because there's most likely, I don't know, at least 100 Easter eggs. There's so many callbacks to hardcore MCU fanboys, which is really interesting. This movie, the second time round, felt a lot better. It was like a love letter to the MCU. So the final act happened, and yes, Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, can wield Thor's original hammer. But if you watched all the movies, you would know that because he moved it before. But this time around, I'm guessing there's no enchantment on it because he's always been worthy. But I guess because Odin wasn't alive, then the enchantment wouldn't be there in theory. But there is a paradox that it creates, because obviously when they go back, he took the Thor's hammer back from Dark World, I believe it was. Then what would happen to the Thor in that timeline? Would he miss the hammer? So there is a lot of time travel issues in this movie that don't really work if you think about it, or if you're a Flash fan, you're used to plot holes. So there's a lot of plot holes to do with time travel, but you can brush over them because it's such a cool movie. So the final act essentially is Thanos coming back, and he's got a massive army with him. He's got the children of Thanos. He's got the Outriders, I believe, and he's got the T'Chari. Just a huge ass battle, which is pretty cool, against the Avengers. Essentially, it was Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor to start off with. It was insane. Thor had Stormbreaker and Mjolnir, butcher me down below guys if I said it wrong, and the original hammer. It was absolutely insane. Iron Man, Thor, Captain America going toe-to-toe with Thanos. Obviously, we do meet Professor Hulk in this movie, which is kind of disappointing for me. And Catherine Langford's character was outside the dining place, but you would have blinked. If you blinked, you would have missed it. So there were lots of rumors that she was going to be playing Tony Stark's daughter, but essentially she wasn't. Bit disappointing. But essentially, a lot of people in the comment section have said this, and I think it was a little bit annoying, that we didn't understand, we didn't get to physically see Hulk and Bruce Banner merge into Professor Hulk. I kind of think they butchered the Professor Hulk character, because it would have been better for us to see what happened and exactly how it did, rather than explaining it to us. Kind of like how we didn't see Thanos get the Power Stone from Xandar. They just spoke about it, but maybe it was a budgeting issue. Maybe they just didn't want to do it. But a big plot point of Infinity War was the fact that Hulk couldn't Hulk out, and then we get Professor Hulk for the whole movie. So essentially, they make their own version of the Infinity Gauntlet. They've got all the stones. Professor Hulk is the one to wield it initially, snaps it. Everyone returns. They all think it's cool. Then essentially, fake Nebula from the past brings back Thanos through. So it's a past version of Thanos, because obviously the real version of Thanos is dead. And then it's just an all-out slaughter. Then HawkEye throughout is trying to get the gauntlet to the right person. So essentially it really did damage Hulk wielding the Infinity Gauntlet. And it was really sad in my opinion, because we didn't get the rematch. We didn't get Hulk going one-on-one with Thanos that everyone wanted. Even if you loved the movie, that was a plot point that a lot of people want to happen, but it didn't come out to play. So essentially, the movie ends with a massive battle between all of Thanos' army and Iron Man, Cap, and Thor. But then, everyone comes back. Doctor Strange, T'Challa, Shuri, SpiderMan, everyone like that. Captain Marvel wasn't really in this movie. I kind of liked her, but a lot of people seem to troll her for some reason. But essentially, she came back and was like, hey, Spider-Man, you got something for me? And she takes the gauntlet. She literally takes out the Sanctuary 2, Thanos' ship, by herself. She literally fortifies the fact that she is the strongest Avenger easily. So essentially, it is an all-out battle. You're seeing all the Avengers take out all these other characters. Fantastic. It must have taken such a long time to perform this. Such a crazy scene. Would have loved, I really hope we get to see some of the behind the scenes images of how they actually made this fight scene, because it was crazy. And then Doctor Strange was like to Tony, when Tony asked him, is this the way? How are we going to defeat him? He's like, yeah, I can't tell you, or else it won't happen. So essentially, it's kind of like most people could predict it. Essentially, Iron Man had to wield the gauntlet. It was pretty funny though, because Thanos thought he got it, but it was on the right hand. And then essentially, Tony Stark's new armor wielded the gauntlet, and essentially he snapped his finger and erased Thanos and all Thanos's, I guess you can say, villains or minions, so to speak. So that was interesting. And then Iron Man died, sadly, but it was really fitting, and it was set up throughout the whole movie. You could see it coming a mile off, but it is good that his daughter is still around. And then we get a funeral scene, which is very, very sad and emotional. The screen I was in, a bunch of people did cry. It was pretty sad. Not as sad as Wolverine for me, but it was a really emotional movie. And the stakes were so high. And then there was a funeral scene with literally everyone there. Even Nick Fury showed up. Captain Marvel's got shorter hair and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So the time travel stuff, it kind of is, we're not confusing, it's just really not showing anything. So we do see Spider-Man. Okay, you got to understand that they're 5 years in the future. He was snapped away. He hugs like Ned when he gets to see Ned. And does that mean the whole school was snapped away? Because neither of them have aged. I believe you don't age where they were. But it's a bit weird. So Spider-Man Far From Home, I don't know what timeline, what year it's going to kick off in. It's a bit strange. And then things really get interesting when Captain America, Steve Rogers, is meant to take all the stones back, but he does. But we don't get to see this. We get to see him being with Peggy in the 40s, which was absolutely insane to see. Was so cool to see. But I would love to see him take the Soul Stone back, because what happens to the souls? What happens to the souls when you release them? And essentially, he comes back as old man Steve Rogers, probably in his 90s, which is kind of confusing in a way, but not really confusing. It's just a way from a narrative storytelling point of view. Did they explain it properly? Because if Steve stayed in the 40s, would he have ever became Captain America? Would he have ever been like frozen in the ice cube and then comes out 70 years later? Yeah, I personally do think it's a massive plot hole, but you can overlook it. But then he's got the shield at the end of it, so he was still Captain America, which realistically makes no sense from a storytelling point of view. I'm going to do a different video about that, but essentially it kind of is like the parallels that you get in the Flash universe. Then essentially he gives the shield to Falcon, aka Sam. So essentially, is he Captain America now, and would he need the super serum? There's so many callbacks. My favorite line was when Thanos says, "I'm inedible," and then Iron Man's, "I'm Iron Man," and then he snaps Thanos away. It was such a damn cool movie. So guys, let me know in the comment box down below. Did you watch the movie? How many times are you going to watch it? If you do want to enter the competition for a gauntlet, all you got to do is let me know down below. What is your favorite moment? Thank you so much, guys, for your support. We are so close to hitting 70,000 subscribers. Don't worry, the content's going to keep flying. We're going to expand some other things, but Marvel is kicking. We've got some new promo images of Mysterio and Spider-Man. I really can't wait to see what is going to happen in Phase 4. It's going to be amazing. There's so much Marvel stuff coming. There's obviously the Loki Disney streaming service show, the Scarlet Vision and all that kind of stuff. Bit strange that Vision wasn't in this movie at all. A lot of people thought he would actually be in it, but he wasn't really in it at all. But we here at the Warstu channel just want to say thanks for all the love and support throughout the whole year, building the hype to Endgame. Don't worry, guys, we're still here grinding content on a daily basis. So like always, guys, please like, subscribe, and share the video if you can. It does help the video get more visible and get more traffic. And I will catch you guys in another video very soon. Catch you later.